We all know the resume: a dashing nobleman, a displaced veteran of the Crusades, and a high-minded philanthropist who robs the rich to give to the poor. That specific heroic profile carried straight through the 20th century and directly into modern blockbusters. We know exactly who this character is supposed to be. But if you read the earliest surviving ballads from the 15th century, you find a man with a violently fluid moral compass. The original text gives us a common laborer who fights with a broadsword instead of a bow, kills people for sport, and operates without a Maid Marion. Robin Hood is a sprawling 800-year open-source myth. Successive generations hijacked the original folktales, gentrifying a harsh medieval outlaw into a polite modern hero. If we look at English court rolls from the 13th century, the term robohood appears repeatedly. It operated as a stock legal alias used by scribes to describe generic, unidentified bandits. When he finally entered literature, the earliest ballads explicitly classified Robin as a yeoman. He was a working-class commoner, bound to the soil and subordinate to the aristocracy. The earliest texts anchor his stories specifically in the dense woods of Barnesdale, Yorkshire. It took decades for the legend to migrate south. The more famous Sherwood Forest in Nottinghamshire was grafted onto the story much later. The first audiences to hear these tales were listening to stories about a localized, volatile anti-hero. His actions reflected the brutal reality of peasant life under feudal law, without any hint of a grand national agenda. By the 16th century, the myth collided with English folk traditions. Villages used Robin Hood as the center of springtime May Day festivals. These holidays already featured a set cast of traditional archetypes, including a bawdy friar and a festive May Queen. As the celebrations merged, Friar Tuck and Maid Marion were permanently written into the outlaw's inner circle. During the Tudor era, the ruling class started consuming these popular stories, but the aristocracy required a protagonist who mirrored their own social standing. Elizabethan playwrights actively sanitized the character. They invented the title Earl of Huntingdon for him, retroactively placing his adventures during the reign of King John. The character's core motivation shifted entirely. He went from a volatile yeoman rebelling against the feudal system to a displaced nobleman trying to restore his rightful place within it. 2 centuries later, the political climate of 1795 drove another revision. A writer named Joseph Ritson compiled the old ballads, heavily filtering them through his vocal support for the French Revolution. This flowchart visualizes the specific political ethos Ritson injected into the lore. He cemented the idea that Robin operated under a strict policy of robbing the rich to redistribute wealth to the poor. Victorian authors then adapted these stories for children. They recast the outlaw as a high-minded Anglo-Saxon patriot defending his oppressed countrymen against foreign Norman lords. Writers took an apolitical folklore figure and completely rebuilt him to serve contemporary class struggles and romantic nationalism. As the 20th century arrived, Hollywood studios took the accumulated traits and locked them in. They delivered the polished, untouchable patriot that remains the default standard today. The evolution continues even now. Recent film and television adaptations routinely introduce a Saracen or Muslim warrior into the merry men, reflecting contemporary conversations around globalism and diversity. Trying to track down the historical man who inspired the myth misses the mechanism of the story's survival. Robin Hood remains immortal because he is a blank canvas. Each successive generation paints their own politics, anxieties, and moral hopes onto the character, ensuring the outlaw from Barnesdale never actually dies.